So you want to learn Samsho, huh? Alright, let's go, boys.
Samurai Shodown.
Alright, so you've never played a Samsho game in your life. What the hell is this game about? Basically, it revolves around a few very key and simple fundamental fighting game concepts, such as spacing, punishment, and mind games. The ultimate beauty of Samsho comes from its simplicity, being able to approach the same situation in different ways. Depending on which character you play versus which character the enemy is playing, allows you to freely express all the different ways you can play this game. And just like any other fighting game, if you don't understand the situation that you're in, you're gonna find yourself in dire straits. And I mean, really dire straits. So to help you out, we're gonna go over all the basic tools, functions, and everything else in between to help you kind of understand how to get your bearings right in the game and, you know, just not flub around like a complete idiot. Alright, so what are we working with here? The top bar is our health bar, and the bottom bar is our rage bar. Everyone in this game actually has a flat 1000 health. However, they don't take the same damage from each damage source equally. So as an example, we're gonna hit Genjuro with Haomaru's 5H. And then we're gonna hit Nakaruru with the same attack, and you're gonna be able to see how much damage is actually done to each person. So as you can see, the damage differential between hitting Genjuro and Nakaruru is pretty substantial, about 10%. This is because each character is divided into individual defensive tiers. There's also a guts-type mechanic to take into consideration. Notice when you get hit enough, the health bar goes from green to yellow to red. This isn't just for show to warn you how low your health is getting. Being in yellow health will make you take less damage from attacks than in green, and red will take less damage than in yellow health. Health, guts, and defense are all variables to keep track in your mind during your fights. A staple combo you like to do on one character to finish your rounds might not work on another who has higher defensive strength and also being in red health. Let's move on to rage for a second. Basically, the more you get hit, the more rage you'll build. This is effectively your comeback mechanic, and once the rage bar is filled, you'll do more damage with every attack. Just be aware that you actually have to be at full rage in order for the damage boost to take effect. Being at 99% or 0 doesn't matter. You have to be at 100. And for the last note about rage, it doesn't actually last forever. It lasts about 12 to 13 seconds until it completely dissipates and goes back to 0. So during this time, be sure to capitalize on big damage in any way you can. Alright, let's move on to the more fun stuff. Hitting people for a crap load of damage. You have 4 main attack buttons in this game. You have light slash, medium slash, heavy slash, and kick. Of these 4 buttons, light, medium, and heavy slash all have what are called close and far variations. This only goes for standing and crouching attacks though. Jumping attacks don't have any range dependency whatsoever. Kick also has multiple variations that are not range dependent. These are standing kick, forward kick, crouching kick, and down forward kick. Kicks are mostly used for their incredibly fast startup to stuff an opponent's attack and knock down utility. One big strength about kicks is that you can use it really well in scramble situations when you're up close and personal with the opponent. Constantly stuffing out their attacks might just make the struggle even more chaotic, so you can really use that to your advantage to fluster your opponent. However, keep note that kicks are very, very fast, but they're also very, very short range. So even though you can use a kick to stuff out opponents' attacks really easily, if they're mashing on a heavy button and you whiff your kick, that's going to be a lot of damage dealt. So try not to put yourself in a situation where you're going to get destroyed by whiffing a few kicks here and there. While running, you could also press any attack button to do a running attack. These buttons are really good for trying to punish moves that normal attacks wouldn't be able to reach. Next we have medium plus heavy to do an overhead attack. It's mostly used to hit crouching opponents that are holding down back to block, but sometimes you can hit people in the air just by sheer luck. Alright, so let's move on to the, special moves. Most of the characters in this game have around 4 to 5 special moves on average. For each of these moves, you can see that the light, medium, or heavy button affects the properties of these moves. So generally, the heavier the button, the more damage it's going to do. But it also might have different special properties as well. So let's take Haomaru's Light Shoryuken. The Light Shoryuken is really fast and doesn't leave him super vulnerable if blocked, but the heavy version is invulnerable on startup and, as you can see, insanely punishable on block. You can do what is called a special cancel by canceling your normal attacks into your special attacks. Normally, you can only cancel your light attack or your medium attack into a special. However, some characters like Yoshitora, for some reason, are able to cancel their heavy attack into any special that they want. Depending on your character and the space that you hit the opponent at, you're going to have to pay attention to where you're at on the screen and what special you try to cancel into, because sometimes you can horribly whiff and things could go really wrong. Whenever you special cancel, you have to time the attack of the cancel at the precise moment that you land the attack. If you do it too early or too late, it won't come out. So be sure to practice your timings. Also, this isn't Street Fighter. Crouched normals into specials aren't a thing. If you play a character like Ukyo or Yashimaru that has air specials, be aware that you cannot do any air special cancels at all. Alright, now let's talk about big damage. Let's talk about super special moves. These super special moves are powerful moves that can only be used once per match. They're used by pressing forward, half circle forward, H plus K. Regardless of whether your super special hits or is blocked, you cannot use it again. It's also very punishable on block or on whiff, so be sure to only use it when you're guaranteed to land the hit, because if you think that for some reason there's some sort of special invulnerability with this cool move, nah. The best way to land a super special move, in my opinion, is right out of a deflect. The opponent literally cannot do a single thing to get out of this stun state, leaving about 60 to 70% of their life bar completely and utterly destroyed. Now, unfortunately, some characters like Tam Tam have a harder time accomplishing this than others, because his reflect into super special makes him jump right over the opponent's head. So be sure to go into training mode and figure out the best way to reliably hit your super special move. And last note about super specials, we're doing a comparison on the left and right between rage and no rage. And as you can see, the damage is exactly the same. So don't waste valuable rage time pulling off a super special move if you can help it. Try using your weapon flipping technique instead, in which we'll go over that right now. Weapon flipping techniques can be activated by pressing quarter circle forward, medium plus heavy slash, and you can do it either once your rage bar is completely full or if you've activated Rage Explosion. If you hit the opponent, the weapon will fly out of their hands and land at a random location on the screen. The disarmed opponent has to run to their sword and press the light attack to pick it up. This is a horrible situation for the opponent to be in, and most will likely get desperate to get their swords back. So be sure to fully capitalize on their helplessness and bully the ever-loving crap out of them. One awesome feature about weapon flipping techniques is that you can cancel them out of any normal attack. So this is great for punishes, guard break throws, and other situations where normally you wouldn't be able to capitalize on a lot of damage. And also, just like super specials, weapon flipping techniques also have their own downfalls depending on which character you're playing as, so head to the lab. Rage Explosion is another ability that can only be used once per match, which can be activated by pressing light, medium, and heavy together. You can use this at any time in the match, regardless if the round starts or when the round is 1 second from ending. Note that the activation of Rage Explosion also pauses the in-game timer. So Rage Explosion is actually a twofold mechanic. First, it can be used as a burst, knocking the opponent away from you to give you some breathing room. Second, it puts you into a state where you can use a special move called Fatal Flash, or Isen for short. We'll get to that in a second. But first, we need to go over some specifics. First, you can only use it if you're getting hit. Second, this isn't Guilty Gear, so unfortunately you can't burst while you're blocking. And last, you can't activate it while you're in the air getting hit. So certain moves like Yoshitor's quarter circle back and attack button will lift you off the ground, rendering you unable to burst out of the damage. Alright, so now on to Fatal Flash / Isen. So once you're in Rage Explosion, you can press Light, Medium, Heavy again to activate Isen. Missing health will both extend the time that Rage Explosion is active for, as well as increasing the damage that Isen deals. Now what's weird about Isen is that actually it's not startup invulnerable. Even though it looks like it, you most likely make contact with the enemy player's hitbox before they are able to hit you. So it may look like it, but it isn't. Or is it? I mean, honestly, I'm completely stumped on this one. Here, it looks like Haomaru gets invulnerability from Heavy Shoryuken, and it should make contact with Isen if it's not invulnerable, but they just pass through each other, so honestly, I have no idea. But what I do know is that it is projectile invulnerable. It doesn't matter whose projectile it passes through, it just goes through everybody's and smacks everybody in the face. While you're in Rage Explosion, jump-ins and whiffs are your best friends because they leave the opponent completely vulnerable to a free Isen. Be sure to capitalize on your opponent's careless mistakes. One last note about Rage Explosion and Isen is that certain characters that have uppercut-type moves like Haomaru and Shiki are especially vulnerable to getting countered because Rage Explosion, obviously when you get hit, you knock the opponent back, but it doesn't knock people back in the air. So it's a free counter, basically. Alright, and last but not least, we have guard breaks, which are done by pressing K plus H together. The guard break itself doesn't actually do any damage. The purpose of it is to allow you to, spoiler alert, break someone's guard when your opponent is being overly defensive, especially when the round is nearly over and they're super close to death. Alright, some specifics about guard breaks. Number 1, they can beat strikes if the strike is slow enough. 2, the range is really, really short. 3, when you grab somebody, the damage of the next attack / combo is considerably reduced. And 4, whiffing a throw will leave you incredibly vulnerable, so try not to whiff. So now you're probably thinking, yo, Keel, look at all these moves that do 1,000,000 damage. How am I going to defend against that? Well, let's talk about defense then. As the good saying goes, the best offense is a good defense sometimes. And in Samsho, there's a lot more to defensive mechanics than just simply holding down back and hoping the enemy will stop swinging at you. So let's go over a lot of the vital tools that you're going to need to be able to turn the tables. Blocking consists of highs, lows, and overheads. Stand blocking allows you to block highs, jump attacks, and overheads, but leaves you open to lows. Crouch blocking allows you to block highs and lows, but leaves you open to jump attacks and overheads. Real basic 2D fighting game stuff. So here's where Samsho differs from other fighting games. When your light, medium, or heavy attack is blocked, your character recoils back in accordance to which button you attacked with. The more powerful the attack, the longer the recoil. So you're probably thinking, alright, he blocked my attack and I'm in this recoil state. What the hell am I supposed to do now? Well, what you can actually do is you can special cancel out of the recoil animation. So even though you attacked and your attack was blocked, you can actually try to steal your turn back. So by doing this, you're basically gambling. If an opponent blocks your attack, you're betting on whether he's going to hit a button or not. So if you throw out a special move, you could hit him. Or the opponent could wait and you might lose out on more health than if you had just done nothing. Just defending is done by defending attack just before the attack lands. If you properly just defend, you'll build rage and nullify any chip damage that would have been taken if the move was a special attack. This is a great way to quickly build meter if you remember the proper timing of multi-hitting attacks. After you've done a just defense, you can immediately do stance break by pressing light and medium together. Stance breaks don't do any damage, but they blow the opponent down across the floor. So it actually gives you a lot of space to work with. Stance break isn't a very great tool to use universally. Take, for example, if someone tries to hit you, recoils, and then special cancels afterward. What's going to happen is that because Stance Break isn't invulnerable and it's very short range, you have to use it very, very cautiously. It's a good idea to use Stance Break on special attacks because you can't really cancel out of special attacks to do anything else, but again, it's not invulnerable, so if you try to use a guard break during a special attack that hits multiple times, you're gonna get hit. But normal attacks are a different story, so just be aware. Pressing light and medium allows you to dodge in place. You can dodge literally every attack in the game, including throws. This seems to be first frame active, but the window doesn't last very long, and the animation for it is ridiculous, so spamming this is not recommended because you're gonna leave yourself wide open. The biggest issue with dodging is that for a lot of attacks, they seem to recover fast enough to where if you dodge an attack, the opponent will be able to easily follow up with another one before you recover, even with a decent amount of heavy slashes. So the best way I found to use this is to dodge an opponent trying to grab you, and then punish them. Now this is honestly one of the coolest defensive mechanics I've ever seen. Pressing quarter circle forward, light and medium when an opponent tries to hit you with a standing light, medium, or heavy slash will result in you deflecting their attack. Aside from completely swagging on your opponent, this is an amazing move to open up someone who's mindlessly just swinging at you. When you're deflecting an attack, the opponent cannot do anything to get out of the deflected stun state. This includes special cancels, rage explosions, whatever. The timing isn't super strict, and it doesn't matter where you are on the screen. As long as the attack was going to hit you, you can deflect it from wherever. Deflecting an attack is an awesome opener for using super specials, as they literally cannot do anything. Last note about deflect. The length of time they're stuck in recoil is slightly dependent on the strength of the attack, but as you can see, it's not really that big of a difference. Now the issue with deflect is that you can't deflect literally everything. The only attacks that you can deflect are strikes that you have to stand to block. Low attacks, kicks, jump-in attacks, special moves, all that stuff, you cannot deflect any of that. So this is a very, very big read tool. And finally, the best mechanic ever is catching someone's blade while disarmed. Blade catch is done the same way as deflect is, and for all intents and purposes, acts the exact same way, with all the goofy stipulations as well. Alright boys, I got nothing else to teach you. Go out and embrace death.